work. We have a really big thing coming up. All right, a really big thing coming up. And guess what? I cannot do.
What's that?
I can't let them know just
Not
yet.
right now.
I can't let them know just yet. But what I do want you to do is go to Bread Green on Facebook. Follow that page, all right? We have a lot of content coming up. We just struck a really big deal with a really great sister.
We did.
It's I want to next week.
We got you.
Next week we'll announce that, all right? Also, the MINDSTREAM Radio app is back.
Indeed.
It is in full effect.
In full effect.
In full effect.
In full effect.
It's because we can listen to the Force MDs.
A couple of seconds ago.
Probably so.
Couple of seconds.
The MINDSTREAM Radio app is back.
Yes.
Large and in charge. You can download that thing on iTunes and any other Android market. It's all
it's
there.
Free.
And it's absolutely
free.
And it's absolutely free. You can get it.
Get with us.
You can listen to the show. You can listen to the podcast version of the show. And you can also watch the rerun of our live stream there. Also, you get push notifications that you know what's going on with MINDSTREAM. All of it, man.
All of that.
And one more shout out before we get started with our very important topic and our wonderful, wonderful guest. Shout out to everybody following us on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yes.
Shout out to Jenny who's been posting our questions of the day.
Indeed.
Definitely, man. We've getting a lot of feedback on that, man. We are in full effect. We back, man. We rolling.
Like we never left.
Back like we never left before, cuz.
Indeed.
All right, man. Safe travels to Nargis. She's not with us today.
Yes.
Sleepy Chris and Clarence are over there in the corner.
In the vestibule.
We're gonna get them on in a second.
We're gonna bring them out the tunnel.
We're gonna they gonna come running out the tunnel.
High fiving
like a pro wrestler.
The playoffs have started.
Yeah, exactly. Like Randy Orton or something like that, right? Yeah, we're gonna get them in there in a minute. Last week we covered two topics. Mm-hmm. We talked about the whole dating game and why people love to discuss dating so much. And we also talked about this Kendrick Lamar thing, and that was something that kind of popped up on us. We didn't really expect to talk about that last week. We wasn't sure we were going to talk about it, but we delved into it. And again, shout out to Nargis for being our resident woman.
She was the resident woman for that day. And
doing, dealing with all our mansplaining and
patted on my chest and look confused.
Don't do it. Just go stay out.
I'm good, bro. I'm like, you're gonna see a new side of me.
Yeah, stay out the deep end. Stay out the deep end today.
I'll try.
But what we decided to do, because we like to hold ourselves to a high standard. And I'm not saying that to beat on our chest. I just think that whenever we have these conversations, we like to be able to cover every aspect of it. So I talked to Paul the following Monday, and we decided that we probably didn't do the best job discussing either one of those topics, right? Because we kind of rushed through them. So what we're going to do is cover both of them over the next 2 weeks. Right. Next week, we're going to talk about the disconnect between African-American men and women, the whole relationship thing. We're really going to get into that. We're going to have great guests. And then this week, we're going to talk about beauty standards, the Kendrick Lamar thing, and so much more. And with that being said, we have wonderful guests in the building.
Yes, we do.
I'm gonna start with the ladies first, brother. Can I get there?
But should you? Hey, take it easy.
Stay out that deep end of the water, Paul.
Boom, boom. Here I
come. I want to start with Michelle Sasha. Am I saying that right? Yes. All right, Michelle Sasha. She's a writer, artist, author of hip hop. The book is available on Amazon.com. Correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You step a little closer to the microphone. How you doing today?
I'm all right.
Good to have you.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you.
Excited.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we have Yolanda Renee. She's a natural hair guru and a YouTube star. She has thousands upon thousands of followers and views on the day of YouTube. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not least, we have the man Devon Beck in the building, hip hop artist and inspirational speaker.
Yes.
And he likes the Force MDs.
Indeed.
He's a big fan of the Force MDs.
Bow-legged Lou in particular.
Nostalgia.
In particular.
Bow-legged Lou. You know what that make me think of. Michelle, right? All right.
Oh, man.
We're going to have fun today, y'all. We wanted to really get into this. This thing that happened with Kendrick, and it's not just Kendrick Lamar, it's also with some stuff that Tyrese said, and just black men in particular when we talk about beauty standards and women just in general. But I just want to talk about the Kendrick Lamar thing first. In the line that he had in his track. We should bring Clarence back on to
eloquate it.
Yeah, that was, if you heard the show last week when Clarence read the lyrics.
Oh my gosh. Epic.
It was great.
Jeez.
It was great. But he went on to talk about how, he's tired of the Photoshop woman, and he wants to see more natural women on screen, and I guess just in his life, you know what I mean? A lot of people took offense to that. A lot of people were upset about that. Yolanda, I want to start with you. Just in general, what were your thoughts about the whole Kendrick Lamar line? Were you offended by that? Was that something that you thought was a little bit much?
I personally did not think it was much. I thought it was awesome because he has a huge platform, and for him to say that, I guess I'm a positive thinker, so to me that was his platform to make it okay. Like, because there's some girls who probably do want to rock their natural hair or be more natural, but all they see is the opposite of that.
Right.
So I think he was speaking to those that aren't, confident to do that. So now they're like, oh, Kendrick's saying it, so now I can, be natural. Yeah, definitely. Michelle, what were your thoughts about this? Just like what Kendrick said and just the reaction to it.
When I first heard it, I didn't have a reaction either way, just trying to digest all of those bars in that one song,
Yeah.
That kind of, I purport myself to be natural, I straighten my hair once in a while, I wear makeup, but for the most part, I'm natural. So when I saw the reaction on Twitter and Instagram, wherever else, quite honestly, I was surprised. But then, going through, reading it, it seems like we're in a day of a time where people just are looking to be offended as opposed to actually being offended.
Right.
So seeing that reaction was surprising, but then, you see it every day. Somebody's always complaining about something. Nobody's happy with this, that, and the other. So I guess at the end of the day, it's disappointing, some of the negative reaction, because, I think people are looking too deep into it and, maybe judging themselves based on what they heard versus, taking it at face value.
Interesting.
What he was saying.
Interesting. I want to jump over to Devon. You're an MC. You operate in that world. A lot of people were discussing like beauty standards when it comes to just hip hop artists and hopefully, if I can, we had Drea Rowland who was supposed to be calling in. I'm going to try to get in back contact with her because she wrote a great article for Complex.com called "Why Kendrick Lamar Good Intentions Led to Bad Dragging," and she talked about how like hip hop has this history of talking about women and treating them as like material basically and not human beings, and that Kendrick is not immune to that as well. And even when he's trying to say something proper, she used some other lyrics that he used that were like misogynist and but just as an artist, what were your thoughts about him talking about the Photoshop woman in the video and such?
And when I heard it, I thought it was genius that he said it, and like my fiance said, like him using that platform to say that is awesome.
Right.
Now, obviously, we're living in a time where everybody wants the information first. Right. Everybody wants the kind of like the clickbait in order to say, all right, this is wrong. But me myself, when I've been with Yolanda for years, and now I look at women that have long hair and it's not real, like blue contact, like I think that's weird now, because I live with a natural woman and I've seen that side, so I think it's all in what you like, and people want to be offended. We're living in a time where when you jump online, they want to know all your thoughts. I don't want to know all your thoughts.
Right.
Some things you take it for face value. We accept the art for what it is, and that's his artistry. That's his opinion, and I don't think people should be offended. I think if that's what you're doing, if the shoe fits, wear it.
Right.
Right.
Paul, we've had a week, and we're gonna get the fellas in here in a second. We've had a week to digest this, right? We've had a week to listen to other opinions. I'll give mine in a few because someone actually made a really good point to me in one of our many questions of the day throughout the week. After a week of this and even hearing his album, which came out last night, and hearing more context and things like that, is your stance still the same? Do you think that it's still something that much ado about nothing, or can you kind of see what some of the people that would complain about this have coming from?
With looking at a few things, some things give context to a thought process. I haven't changed in what I've thought on it.
Right.
It made me think on even a few like deeper issues that even have to do with us as a community and as it relates to one another.
Right.
Yeah, I still feel the same. Like I said, it's some things with, a thought process behind it helped me understand some things. But for the most part, I still think that certain elements of things were uplifting and telling and artistry in and of itself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But some of the things gave me something to think about.
That's interesting. And Clarence, you could come over. That's interesting because when we ask the questions, and I'm gonna ask some of these questions to our panel today. One of them was just about the Kendrick lyric, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh no, people just looking for something to be mad about, this, that, and another," right? But a good friend of ours, Cassandra, who knows that I'm a sneakerhead, right? And knows how sometimes when I see those memes about like, oh, you got all these Jordans, but you staying in your mama basement, or they show like a bunch of Latino people or Hispanic Americans waiting for jobs, and then but the black man looking for all these shoes, and then I tend to get a little offended by it, right? And people go, why is this sneakers? And I go, well, because you put all these tropes on the black man. Like, why can't I be well off and buy shoes? Why can't I just enjoy the shoe? Why can't I just enjoy a part of what I feel is hip hop culture? Why does it have to be negativity, right? So she said to me, the same way you felt about that, Adam, and how you kind of go to back and feel the need to explain that I'm not doing this because I'm brainwashed, right? Because, a lot of times when it comes to weave and makeup, it's this whole, the white man got you brainwashed. That's why you put this stuff in your hair. Or that's why you put this makeup on, or what have you, what have you. It's the same thing. Now, I'm not saying it's the exact same thing. I'm not saying sneakerheads have it like black women. That is not what I'm saying. However, when she used that point, it made me think about it in a different way of like, all right, if you're a person who likes makeup or, likes to put whatever in your hair or do whatever, dress a certain way, you probably hear this type of stuff all of the time, right?
Right.
So then even if a person has good intentions, like Drea expressed in her article, we're going to try to get her on another show, like she expressed in her article, sometimes you can accidentally offend a person because you're not really thinking about it from their perspective. You know what I mean?
Right.
Before I go to Clarence, I want to go to Yolanda because you deal with beauty as a living. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen, with makeup and things like that? And mind you, we're going to sound like Neanderthals when it comes to makeup and beauty.
Asking questions.
I know nothing about this, right? But when it comes
supposedly,
very good, very good. When it comes to beauty and beauty standards, do you find that sometimes men, especially black men, can be a little tough on black women and get into this whole, you being brainwashed, you're not accepting your natural beauty, this, that, and another? Can you see that side of the story?
Absolutely. And like you said, because men don't understand, but I mean, women, like, we grew up playing dress up. Like, that's just what we do. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't take offense to it because they don't understand, but I love makeup. I love doing different hairstyles, different clothing. It's all a form of expression. And I don't think it's anything about being brainwashed. It's just how you grow up. Not all women like makeup. There's some tomboys out there who don't like makeup. It's just all a personal preference.
Right. It's wild, P, because that whole thing with like Alicia Keys and I'm not wearing makeup anymore, and then a lot of men were like, yeah, sister queen, you doing your thing, this, that, and another. But a lot of other women were like, so what if she's not wearing makeup? At the end of the day, if it's your choice, it's your choice. But I want to ask you before I do go to Clarence, and we'll bring Chris in here in a moment. What do you think about that example I used? Because that did hit home for me. It still doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world. It still doesn't seem like, what he said was so earth-shattering and so offensive. But it did make me see it from another side, because you and I do go to bat for hip-hop culture and sneaker culture in particular. Go ahead.
I mean, I definitely, like I said, some things are brought into context I'm sorry.
That's just Chris.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come on in, Chris. Some things were brought into context better. You know what I'm saying? Even with that example that you gave. But in general, I don't know if it was like a slam on anything. Like sometimes it's always like we always got to go to corners and choose sides on this, that, and the third. I don't even know. I think like even in a preference thing, right? So like you said, I don't completely understand any and everything about makeup. It's not particularly a thing that I personally care about too tough, right? Again, I'm not a woman, so I had my son's mother, actually, we were going to take pictures. And she didn't normally wear a whole lot of makeup, but we were going to take pictures. And I guess when you take pictures, see, exactly. Yeah. See, you already know this. Right. So she comes out, and I'm like, darn, why you have on, it just surprised me. In which she began to cry.
Oh.
Yeah, and she's like, I'm trying to look blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know. But it's just like, I don't know if we in particular have to say like, I'm going against this, that, or third, because anything is everyone's personal preference.
Right.
But it's interesting to me, like in some of these forums, how it boiled down to a fact of you can't, like, even when you're trying to be uplifting, or you just can't say anything. Or like I was reading, even in the end of Drea's article, which is a very good article.
Yeah.
She said something about, I thank you for your attempt at being empowering, but we have it from here.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what, you know what I'm saying? And then you have some men that are fathers of daughters, so you can never say anything to your daughter. Like,
yeah, and that, that's something I definitely want to talk about in a moment. Yeah, because that's an excellent point. Like, where do we? Yeah. Where does the conversation become a group conversation as opposed to a conversation that's just amongst one sex? And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. Clarence, I want to get you in here, man, because again, we've had a week, and we won't harp on the Kendrick lyric too long. I just want to use it to preference the entire conversation, or to set up the entire conversation, I should say. But just after a week of absorbing this, seeing all the questions or what have you, what's your thoughts today?
So I have personally taken the stance where as though I just want to shut up and not say anything more. Right? I personally don't want to contribute to that conversation, because obviously I'm being shut out of the conversation. I'm told you need to do something about it, but I'm told that you don't know what you're talking about. Shut up. Right. For me, it's a little frustrating, because I want to try to help fix the situation, but I guess apparently I don't know enough.
At least talk about it.
Right. Exactly, and these conversations are difficult, because you're right. So as a man, there are certain nuances or certain things, dimensions that we don't get. But I think a lot of men are confused about what place they should be taking in this conversation, and that's why it was a good point you brought up about having daughters, right? Like, how does that conversation look? You're just not supposed to say anything. Yeah, you know what I mean. So, but again, some people may say that's missing the point. I think a lot of times men just don't know where to insert themselves in the conversation. Right. And that's one thing I have truly realized this entire week. It's like, okay, I'm missing the point. I think I'm a pretty sharp and smart person, but I am missing this big point that I don't get. Yeah. I remember in the in what's that show, How to Get Away with Murder, and every time that what's the sister's name that's in the show? Anyways, Viola? Viola. Yeah, when she takes her makeup off, like, you'll see people on social media going, like she's showing her true self, right? Which sounds empowering. So when you say, okay, well, maybe less makeup and more real stuff, that's what that's what women want. Women are saying, no, you don't know what we want. It's like, well, what was that all about? Yeah. So I think that the conversation is just very confusing. And I think we have a lot of different people who are contributing to the conversation. Some people who are just busting off shots because they can, for lack of better words. Like, and it's like, okay, I just don't know what I should do about this. And I think sometimes I need to hear the perspective of, like the Cassandras, right? To kind of help. Not saying that I feel like that's equivalent, but just it helps, because that did help me. I was like, wow, but I'm not a sneakerhead, right? So it resonated with me as being friends of sneakerheads, right? You know what I mean?
I got friends, and they got friends.
Right, exactly. But no, for me, it's just really hard to try to really understand what the issue is, and I need to know. This is gonna sound crazy, but as a man, I need to know what my place is, right? Because if I want to help, this whole dynamic in my black family, I need to figure out how do I do that.
Yeah, I definitely want to jump to you, Michelle, because it's this idea of a safe space amongst women and having a conversation amongst women, and sometimes men need to stay out of it. Would you agree with that there's just some things that you all need to have conversations about amongst yourselves before we can add our opinion and then also make whatever comment you were going to make before too? And Chris, you could jump in here. Go ahead.
I'm not sure. I don't. Perhaps there's something to be said about women, black women in particular, putting it out there and kind of saying what they need to say about it. But like you said, what do these fathers tell their daughters? What do how do they look at their mothers? I think that's really the context that we should be placing this in. You know, we're in the Instagram world, right? So you go through your own timeline. It's naked chick, half naked, weave, this, that, and the next. And, we internalize that whether or not, we recognize it or not. So we're internalizing these images that at the end of the day, when someone looks in the mirror, they say, I don't look like that. So when that person looks in the mirror, that's where the fork in the road is. Either you accept what you see in the mirror, or you want to enhance what you see in the mirror. What's the extreme you're going to go to enhance what you see in the mirror? And at the end of the day, once you choose that fork in the road, how do you feel looking at yourself in the mirror? Basically, it's like it's self-acceptance. Some people are self-accepting of enhancing themselves. Like it's hard for me to say, be like me, don't enhance. I'm skinny, I could use a couple more bra cup sizes, but at the end of the day, that's not who I am. Someone else, that's who they are. I can't knock it either way. Right. And on the male's perspective, what are men holding us as a standard to? So, if you're over there reposting Kim Kardashian every day, like I'm going to feel some type of way because there's nothing I could do to look like Kim Kardashian. Right. So that's where we are,
Well, I mean, technically, there is something you can do.
But there's a lot of I suppose.
I'm joking.
But, I think it's, I don't think there's ever going to be a consensus on this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's get one last comment on this Kendrick thing before we get into the bigger conversation, because I think there is a bigger conversation, and also let's introduce some comedic relief.
Man,
you can tell
it's coming. Life,
it's coming. It's a lot. Chris, what are your thoughts on the Kendrick Lamar?
I'm a little bit taken back by the arguments that started off of this. I think we have what I'm going to call South Park syndrome.
All right, let's go.
South Park is the town, fictional town, TV. Those regular people, but every now and then, the town will get riled up about something that starts off small, but snowballs into a larger issue. And I think we sometimes, and I've seen it happen with men, women, black people all the time. One of the funniest ones I saw involved video games. There's a game called Resident Evil about zombies, killing zombies. The game's been everywhere. Like they did a game where the zombies were in South America. Where the zombies were in China. Then they did the zombies in Africa. And of course the zombies were black. Black people went crazy, and I don't know what I would have told Capcom, because had Capcom made the zombies white the first thing black people would have said, we can't even be zombies. We can't be zombies. That would have been the first complaint. Yeah. You're like almost in a no-win situation sometimes.
Can't get no black zombies
out here. Good work, brother. That's funny. That was good. You did a good job.
Boycotting PlayStation.
Now go back into your feeding hole. I'm messing with him. You listen to the MINDSTREAM, by the way. We kind of got to bring it back. We listen to the MINDSTREAM. We got Michelle, Sasha, Yolanda, Renee, and Devon Beck in the building joining us today. We're talking about beauty standards and how they impact our line of thinking, Paul. Kendrick Lamar, I think that's like the lightweight comments, right?
Right.
The dude that always gets in trouble when it comes to talking about women is of course your man, Black Tyrese, aka the dude from Fast and Furious, aka the guy. I don't know why do we do it, right? I mean, I like his music, but why?
Yeah, he's not like a real reverend or something. Like, he's just Tyrese talking about stuff.
But you know, he has a platform.
He does.
Okay. He's gotten in trouble. There's no point even bringing up some of his comments. Like, he's gotten in trouble for talking about, you know, women with weaves, women being sluts and hoes and this, that, another, and blah, 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 right?
Oh, Tyrese.
You know, we talk about this a lot. We've talked about this on the show with the ladies, shouts to Carrie and the rest of the team. When we talked about slut shaming, we had the whole Amber Rose thing. As a matter of fact, Tyrese was involved with the Amber Rose conversation. As a man, and Devon, I'm gonna go to you next to think about your answer on this one. As a man, how would you define slut shaming? Like, what is slut shaming in your opinion?
It's interesting.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I said. Give you a moment.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because are we talking about real sluts? Like,
No, don't do it. Don't go in the deep end, boy.
Hey,
no, but just you know, yeah. What would you know?
Man. So, right. So
what happened was
it's duality in life. You know what I'm saying? Like there are. I don't know. I think some things have started to change, like nowadays, right? So there's a way to look at things. There's a way to explain things. You know what I'm saying? So slut shaming for me. Anyone can be free to do whatever it is that they choose to do in life. You know what I'm saying? Whatever path they choose to take. I guess take it easy. I guess it's more about the way a person goes about something. Because I mean, let's be for real. And like certain things are what they are. If you portray certain elements of a behavior,
but just what, like, you know, not what you think it should be, but what when women say that's slut shaming, like just some of the examples, like is it when you say, oh, a woman shouldn't wear this, a woman shouldn't wear that, oh, she shouldn't have, you know, be sleeping with this many. Do you think that's what people say slut shaming is?
I think that would be like taking it to. I guess when I view the word slut shaming, I'm really thinking of a true and live slut.
See, there you go. Very good. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that would be too strong, like for something like. But I guess I don't know. Okay. I guess I don't know, because if you're telling someone, you know, what clothes that they should wear and you know how they should dress, you know, so I'm not sure. Go ahead,
all right, so then I'm gonna
you
rephrase it just a little bit. You know what I mean? Especially you working in the industry, right? Where if you think about, and not to slam Tyrese, right? I don't want you to, you know, but just if a black man is telling a black woman or woman in general, she shouldn't do this because this makes you look bad, right? You shouldn't wear that because that makes you look bad in the eyes of men or society. Is that slut shaming in your opinion?
It's one of those things. It all boils down to the person. It boils down to the person and the way you put things. I always say the way you present something to somebody, that makes a big difference. Right. Now, if you're saying it and you're trying to demean them, that's a huge difference than you being in front of all your boys and you like, oh, that's you know, I think it's a big difference. And then it goes back to, I'll take it even a step further back, and you say, like, we look at guys, if a guy can get a whole bunch of girls, he's the man. Right. He's the man. But if a girl's out here doing this, that, and the third, she's a different kind of individual. Right. You know, and if she dresses a certain kind of way, you know, I'm raising girls. Yeah. So, you know, I'm gonna be the overprotective, crazy guy all the time. So I wouldn't want them to dress certain kind of ways. You know, I'm gonna be the one to say something. Right. You know, so I would not. I just want them to be comfortable. I want to raise them to be comfortable and to know that, you know, you have to respect yourself first. No matter how you're dressed. I mean, if a girl's dressed a certain kind of way, you wouldn't want to you just have to. That's a respect thing,
right?
You can't just grab girls and
grab
by the trump her. We can't trump her up. Can I say that?
Man, you can say whatever you want.
I don't want them to come get me.
Hey, right?
Look, man,
we got your back.
Yeah, right. But it's like it just goes back to just respecting women and teaching young men and men to respect women no matter what they're wearing, and I know I wouldn't want that kind of woman.
Right.
I just me personally.
I can dig it. Go ahead, P.
Now we're giving gravity and understanding the question more because I was really stuck on the slut shaming portion of it. But I think what he brought to was very important because it's a conversation that both men and women need to have. I have a son. When my son was about 10. You can remember this when he got in trouble for hitting that girl on the butt.
Yeah.
And I had to talk to him, and I had to let him know where his hands belong and what does or doesn't belong to him. And I let him know. I said, if that girl has an older brother that's going to come down here and beat you up, you're going to get beat up. Because if you had a younger sister, and this was the same case, not that that should even be the point, because I know it's going to, stirs all in the toxic masculinity, this, that, and the third. But then having like the conversation of because ultimately, of course, if I have $500 sitting in my car and my window is down, rightfully no one should touch it because it doesn't belong to them. You know what I'm saying? But that's not the world that we live in. So having I would teach my child, my male child, that no matter what a girl is wearing, you're still going to respect her thusly. Nothing. No one is anyone's property or anything. I would teach them that, but of course we still have to live in the 3-dimensional world.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So we can. I think it's good to teach these thought processes and ideal just to frame a way of mind. You know what I'm saying? But we can still have a conversation on how we arrive.
I want to go to Yolanda and Michelle on this one, just in regards, because I think this kind of brings it back to how the men have this conversation, right? When we if a man says something, it could be considered slut shaming. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying that it can, right? If hey, you probably shouldn't do this. So you bring up the situation with Tyrese Rev Run and Amber Rose, when Amber Rose is talking about how, she's a woman, she should be as sexually free as she wants to be, and she literally said, if I'm in the bed and if we're both naked and about to do whatever, and if I say no at that moment, that means no, which right. But then when Rev Run tries to say, well, maybe you shouldn't do this and that, that's when the whole conversation about slut shaming comes up, right? So as a woman, I hate to ask you the broad question, but what do you think slut shaming is, if it exists, and how can we have discourse about it if it does exist?
Okay, so for me, slut shaming it has to be very direct and, like Devon said, disrespectful. I mean, I don't think I've been slut shamed or whatever because I don't present myself that way. But somebody actually has to come up into my face and be like, you're a slut, or you know what I mean? It has to be really aggressive. I can't even think of something that would make me feel like, oh my God, I've been slut shamed.
Right.
It doesn't cross my mind.
Michelle, is it whether you agree with it or not, do you think that people that say slut shaming is a real thing, and then Clarence, I'll go to you next, do you think it's just overly judging a woman from a male's perspective is what people are trying to say slut shaming is, like being all up in your business, telling you what you can wear, don't wear, this, that, another? Do you think that's, and especially when it comes to your bodies, do you think that's what people consider to be slut shaming?
Probably. I think, it's 2017. Women should be allowed to express themselves in any way they choose to.
Right.
But I think it does go back to what we were saying about, respect. Men should learn, like you said, no means no at the end of the day. So you go to court and she said no.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So these are, morals and standards that we all should have. But I don't believe that, I don't know if I understand what slut shaming is per se.
Yeah.
But I can understand from their perspective, women who are very free with themselves, showing themselves, etc. They don't want to hear, negative opinions from other men for whatever reason. Perhaps, it's one of those things, like, you have to take the good with the bad. Like, you're trying to liberate women in one way. You know, we're still in America where, you know, the vast majority of people are technically conservative. So you're going to have to take the good with the bad. I don't know where I stand on the term, but I know that, you know, I do have a daughter myself. So that's what it's all about.
Right.
You know, passing on your own morals and your beliefs to your children.
Right.
And everybody's different. So the children are all going to, unfortunately or unfortunately, we're all going to grow up a little differently and have different opinions. But at the bottom line is, I hope that we can all teach our children to respect each other.
Yeah, Clarence, you know, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Clarence, you know, what it sounds like is that there are a lot of buzzwords floating around, right? And I'm going to bring up a big one in our next block, right? One that Paul loves, I know. It sounds like where the conversation gets muddled because there's these buzzwords and they have different definitions with different people. We have women in here who can't tell you what it is. We have men in here who really can't tell you what it is. But Amber Rose can tell you what it is, and the next person can't tell you what it is. What do you think about that? Like, how do we have this conversation if we can't even define what? Because I get confused on it too. If we can't define what these quote unquote buzzwords are.
So I think one of the reasons why we can't define it is because Amber Rose has experienced it maybe more than, or in a different way than maybe mainstream women, because she was a stripper. Then we known her to be the maybe white girlfriend of Kanye West,
right?
That has a fat behind, right? And then, you know, she's in the limelight, and she has this great body. So people are assuming that, you know, you only got on because you did X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I think it's multidimensional. Whereas I don't know if women maybe on an everyday basis, if they deal to that extreme, right? Because she has the millions of followers. She has this different following that maybe women on an everyday basis don't have, so they may not experience it in that capacity, right? But I think women on an everyday basis do get told about the dress being too short, their heels being too high, looking sexy, which is kind of weird to me because I think I would want to be around sexy women.
I know, right? I bet you do.
I mean, shit. Yeah, I mean, you're right. But I think one of the things also is that it's a lot of different pieces that go into the slut shaming thing. You know, I think to your first point is that there is a conversation that men should be able to have with women. I kind of liken it to the perception of how black men are seen as thugs when they dress a certain type of way, and how society puts that weight onto them. Pull your pants up. Well, I can have my pants hanging down and still have 3 college degrees, still make a certain amount of money, and still, you know, speak with vernacular, whatever, right? My vernacular is on point.
Right.
But the perception is ultimately that you're going to be viewed a certain type of way. And unfortunately, what it comes down to is society's still going to view women in a certain way, no matter how we try to liberate ourselves, right? So just because a woman has on a short dress, no, you can't just go up and grab her or put your hands on her. However, there is unfortunately, there is a cost to that because people are going to have this perception about you, right? So that's just this weight that we have to carry. I think we should have a standard. We should tell our young men, our other, counterparts, no, this, you have to respect. Like, respect is the biggest piece that's been going around, period. However, we also do have an other side that this is how the world is looking at these things.
Yeah.
And be cognizant of that as we're trying to change this narrative.
Yeah.
Right. In the choices you make.
Right. And I think that, you know, the awareness piece was the biggest thing for Amber Rose was, you know, be aware that, I may have, you know, consensual sex with someone and it not be a big deal and, you know, just that one-time thing. Men do it all the time. You shouldn't lessen me as a person because you do it. Why is this, you know, that double standard put onto me? And there's a lot of conversation about double standards and how they exist and why they should exist or whatever. But I think that's the thing. It's a really big piece of cake that we're trying to eat all at the same time, but there's different flavors to it and different layers and dimensions that we just can't put a handle on. I think it's overloading our brain. Before I get to our next big buzzword in our last block, hold on, Chris. I want to speak with Yolanda about this. And I asked this, and Clarence, I just tagged you in the post, so you know, she got a mic, bro. Do you think that a woman's worth is judged by her beauty, by society? That, you know, that beauty is if you're not beautiful, then you aren't, you know, your worth is low as a woman.
I I agree with that just a bit, even though I think it's sad. It's a sad way of thinking. But from the natural hair standpoint, there's texture discrimination within the natural hair community.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so we are all embracing our natural hair. As you can see, my hair is more kinky.
Yeah.
And if you look at her hair, it's more wavy.
Right.
So in the social media natural hair world, these brands that are marketing to natural hair would post more of her hair texture. Your hair is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you so
But
much.
thank you. And so brands, they really do that. They'll post the light-skinned girls with the looser hair type. And, you know, the kinkier girls are like, what? Like it kind of, I don't know, it takes the natural hair community a step back because these darker skinned women aren't being reposted and, you know, I don't know. It's just the texture discrimination is really, really, it's bad.
Go ahead, Clarence.
So to that piece, when I was really infatuated with growing my hair last year, right, I actually had a conversation, and I didn't know that was actually a thing, that inside the natural hair community, there's like there's no difference, like a 4C or B or like a 4B. Like there's this spectrum. And some people feel as though, you know, like if you have a certain number and letter, you're easier to manage than other natural hair. And I was like, wow, this is a real thing.
That's
like
crazy.
Wow.
And it all comes
some way
down
black
to
people,
money.
I was gonna say some way black people, we always find some way to find some type of like dimension within us. It's like,
but that's like a taught behavior. That's incredible. I really did not know that.
I didn't know that either, but you know what that reminds me of, and I want to ask Devon this. If I cut you out,
Go ahead.
my bad. I want to ask Devon this. Then we'll go to Chris, and then Clarence. We're going to read some of those comments on that post I tagged you in. It reminds me of maybe 2 years ago when they were doing a casting call for Straight Outta Compton, and they had an A girl, a B girl, a C girl. Right?
Totally understood.
Now I understood how casting calls worked, right? But it still triggered some stuff because it struck of colorism, right? It was like the light skinned girls with the A girls, the brown skinned girls with the B girls. It was poorly done in way of it shouldn't have come out first and foremost, but you know it struck a chord. As a man in the industry, you know, who's I'm sure you've been on sets of this number. Is there like discrimination amongst like, you know, hey, we want that light skinned girl in here because that's going to sell better. She got that look exotic or whatever. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. Like, because even in terms of watching the video, there's like nobody's really gonna gravitate toward the video if you don't have a certain type of girl in the video. You know. Yeah. So that's just how it goes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like I said, it goes back to what people want to see, what men are gonna gravitate toward. You know. It goes back to the Kendrick line. The natural look and the stretch marks. You know, they Photoshopping all that out. Why? Because they don't want to see what's real. It's better to have that type of flavor.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to add, like, I know we're trying to talk about the surface of it, but I'm very proud of the progress that we have made, like natural women, because, I mean, our daughters are here and they see commercials all the time.
Right.
It's rare that you see a woman with permed hair anymore.
Yeah.
It's always a beautiful black woman with natural hair, no matter if it's curly or kinky. Yeah. I mean, we are making progress, and I'm so proud of that.
Go ahead, P.
So I was definitely going to attest to that. Like, I mean, even with that, because it's interesting, and I guess for a large portion of the spectrum that is true. Like, people want to see the light skin, but I know like people like the Roots and all those, like even videos back in the day, and we talking about old things that were, you know, that were bigging up a different side of the spectrum. And I think there's a larger sector of male, maybe a younger male, a different generation male, that really don't feel that way, which finds this thing really interesting, even in, like I say, when you go out with forms of upliftment, right, and praised for what you're, you know, inherently proud of, and then like to even hear those things that talk about the differentiation between hair texture amongst natural hair, like that is crazy to me, because and that's why sometimes when I find myself in a place where I'm like, well, I find this uplifting, and I do it because this is how I was raised, and I was raised with wonderful women, and I was raised to have respect. So sometimes, like, even in having a conversation, well, don't say anything about anything. It's sort of, you know, it's kind of confusing.
I want to go to Clarence. I got you, Chris. I promise. I want to go to Clarence. I want to read some of these comments, and then Chris gonna give you the last point on this block before we go to the next one, which is a little heavy. Go ahead, Clarence.
Real quick, I just want to point out that I think that the brother spoke to your point last week when you said that Kendrick was speaking to men.
Yeah, I believe that.
Which is a conversation we need to have internally as men.
Yeah.
All right. So the question was, fellas, do you feel like a woman's worth is judged by her beauty? For the most part, people were saying no. However, they also did point out that the reality is that does happen. Specifically, let's see. Ash said, of course, everyone who comments on here is going to say no to save face, but in actuality, the type of thinking is way too common. Larry had mentioned that no, her inner qualities are priceless, and far as worth, I dislike that term because another man's trash, another man's treasure. So worth is definitely something you won't find out until y'all in the trenches in some real life stuff is starting to manifest. My fault. Someone said, Omar said, judged is the key word. I think subliminally he says society sends those messages. Nicole mentioned that beautiful people get away with way more, men and women, but her worth is a good question. She wanted to hear more what the fellas had to say.
Give me one more, and then we'll get the
All right, so Jermaine said, unfortunately, it's not. Men and women are being judged and valued by a rather shallow criteria these days, and any departure from that logic gets deemed weird.
Yeah, you know, I always say, and I've said this on the show 1,000 times, I've said this to anybody listening, it's not fair, it's not right. And I did find it interesting. I was talking to a coworker about how, like, most people said, no, I mean, I don't, but people do, and that's the same thing that happened at ISBC. Like, people don't want to own it. Like, they say they see it, but I don't, and it's just like, okay, then who does it, right? But I just find it is interesting how men are judged by their pockets and women are judged by their beauty, and that's a problem, and it's something we need to work on. But in order to work on it, we have to be able to say it out loud and really address it. Chris, make a point, and we're going to move on.
Well, first off, I want to say I appreciate all women.
I bet you do.
You can tell because the number one video I watch on YouTube is Wu-Tang's Ice Cream.
Oh, don't do that. Let's stall her out. That's an inside joke. Yeah, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no, but I understand a lot. You know, we do have to get rid of some of these double standards. You know, I'm tired of you ladies getting all these free drinks. I want free drinks. I've only gotten one free drink, and that's because the person was cross-eyed. He meant to send it to the girl that was over there, but she was cross-eyed, so it ended up going to me. You know, I did drink that drink. I drank it. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, I felt special.
And you got to dance by him later on.
Oh my God! Yo, we have Michelle, Sasha, Yolanda, Renee, and Devon Black in the building, man. Beck, excuse me, in the building. I'm sorry, Chris. That was very funny, sir. We're talking about beauty standards and how we can start having a better conversation amongst men and women and start dealing with these issues. One thing that comes up often when we talk about this, it came up in my post. I did ask the fellas to post. We won't read comments from that one, but I will suggest that if you follow me on Facebook, Adam Butler, you should look at that post because the men started having a really good conversation amongst themselves about toxic masculinity, right? What is it? Does it exist? There were men that said it's a buzzword. It don't exist. There were men that was like, no, the fact that you're saying it doesn't exist shows that it does exist. It's really, so we can't like read those comments because it's like reading a book on air. However, it was really, really good. But I want to, and I'll start with you, Clarence, because we're an enlightened brother. Right? No, but I'm just
trying to grow your beard.
As a man, can you try to define what toxic masculinity is, if you can?
I think it's just like masculinity that starts to harm other people, right? Masculinity are just traits that make up, you know, stereotypically made of men, but I think that's when those traits start to become external, start to oppress other people. I think that's where it comes from. And again, I don't know who makes up these words, because I think they get paid for that. Because I mean, there was something I heard like misogynoir was about. You know, I never even heard of that before this week until this week. But I think that's what it comes down to is the qualities that make up a lot of times that make up commonly with men, how they start to just oppress women on a massive like mass destructive type of way. And I never really quite thought about it that way, and how a lot of us as men, we do share certain commonalities that do oppress women. And so I guess, again, I just never took the tag word for it, but I think that's what it comes down to is these shared qualities that we may have in how they leak into society and plague the entire water source.
So thank you for answering the tough question, because now we can kind of talk about it a little bit. The reason why I brought up toxic masculinity is because when it comes back to bring it full circle, when it came to Kendrick, many people, and this is why I wish we could have spoke with Drea, and we're going to try to get her on hopefully next week, because I like for people that feel that way to be able to explain themselves, not us have to speak for them. But one thing that people that they were saying is that even when you have good intentions, you're still a product of patriarchy, right? And that when you're saying, I like a woman to be natural and this and another, you're breaking her down into like basically like a sexual object, even if you're trying to be positive about it, right? And that's a product, in their words, that's a product of toxic masculinity, where like we feel we're in control. It's sort of like institutional racism, right? Where a white person can have the best intentions in the world, however, they still feel higher than you. Again, this is, I'm just explaining something. They still feel higher than you, so they operate off of that. They operate off of institutional, a learned behavior, right? So the idea is, Paul, and I'll go to you because I know you got thoughts on this.
I do.
The idea, you got the Stephen A. look on your face right now, like, are you finished? Are you finished? But no, there's the idea that we're in charge, so I have the right to tell you whether you can do this and then another. What do you think about that?
Firstly, I think toxic masculinity is a buzzword. I mean, there's a theory behind it, and I did just do research into it.
Yes, you did.
And I think it's even holes in that, because we're talking about a worldwide problem, right? We're talking about the ins and outs of double standards on both ends, right? So sometimes when this conversation comes up, I find incredible hypocrisy in certain elements of the ideal, right? So of course, like in my opinion, sometimes we have to separate the mass from certain elements of crazy, right? Because there are there is a way to have masculinity that goes over the top, but I don't know if that's to be blamed on masculinity or those elements of that person and their psyche. You know what I'm saying? But now the ideal, right? That almost everything in and about being a man is a bad thing. I don't know if I completely agree with that.
Right. When we talk about buzzwords, I got you. When we talk about buzzwords, one of the comments that one of the fellas made was that he defined it as he defined the problem at the same way everyone that believed in toxic masculinity did. He just didn't like the term toxic masculinity because it sounded like there's something wrong with being masculine, like there's something wrong with being. So I said, you don't have a problem with the idea that men can kind of have the foot on their neck of a woman, for lack of a better term, like kind of just like be dominant and just like try to control them. You don't think that's not true. You just don't like the word, the buzzword, toxic masculinity. Go ahead.
And I don't know if that's even like even in this case, right? Because I guess there's two ways to view it. Because like I said, when you're coming from a person who doesn't have that ideal, even the portion of having your foot on the neck of a woman. Right. So when you enter a conversation, even you want to say something, you feel it's coming from a genuine place in you, right? Because like I said, and I can only speak for myself and how I get perplexed in the situation. I have a great relationship with my mother and subsequently all the women in my family. You know what I'm saying? Which causes me to behave a certain way with and around women. So sometimes when I hear these conversations, it's like, well, even so, if I have an intent, right, from my heart, from the way I was raised, from what I was taught, and even from what I'm saying, what I'm seeing in a new generation of people, because I don't, like, sometimes I think we give credence to that ideal of others being better or this being a black male's ideal of the standard of beauty a little bit too much, because like from what I know of myself, and I'm 39 years old, and people that are like me, you know what I'm saying, like that isn't like directly the case. So sometimes I find it kind of perplexing, and I want to get to a larger issue, because like it's something that to talk about people that are. And I'm not trying to dismiss the situation, but people that are crazy and ideas of people that happen from a person, whereas, well, I'm trying to come from a place, and how do I teach this subsequently to my own son?
Right.
So
go ahead, Clarence.
So to Benjamin Button's point over there,
Hotep.
Yeah. I think that no, he just say he's 39. He doesn't look 39.
No, he doesn't. He
well,
doesn't.
Hell no.
Shut up, bro.
Actually looks
let that man make his point.
52
right.
years old. You're right.
Exactly. That's the way I feel.
think that we have to remember that masculinity in itself are just traits. They're qualities. They are usually attached to men, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all men embody masculine qualities, right? Because there's some women that have masculine qualities.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes women can also perpetuate this idea of toxic masculinity because they embody those traits as well, right? Of just pushing certain agendas or pushing certain stereotypes or whatever. So I think that as men, we do tend to take a little heavy because it's like you're speaking about men exclusively and you're putting us all into this box.
Yeah.
I know that, you two were raised to view women a certain way.
Yeah.
I was raised also, but there's been times I have done things that contribute to possibly to bad behavior that have made women feel uncomfortable, right? I've checked myself on it, essentially. And I think through experience and through education and maturity, I've been like, damn, that was really whack of me, right? But at one time I did do that. But I think that as men, we tend to embody or take on these baggages.
Yeah.
Is that even a word?
It's all good as a word today.
Making it work.
Yeah.
These baggage.
You just gotta sell it confidently.
Right. No, you're right.
Yeah, there you go.
We take on this baggage, and I think that that those true conversations need to start happening. Actually, what masculinity even means? Because I think if you ask people what's masculinity, they would just be like, "Well, that's men."
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not true.
Right, and I think that's why when we talk about all these buzzwords and all this and that is why it gets muffled because the point remains that there's a behavior out there, not just amongst men, but just amongst people that can be demeaning and such. So I want to ask the ladies before we get to our last portion, and I want to talk about what you guys got going on and that you all shout out your stuff, but just really quickly with the ladies, whether you agree with what the women are saying or not, do you think it's a good thing for women to call out men, not necessarily call out, but like to speak up and say, yo, I had a problem with that, and here's why. And is that how we start to have this discourse amongst men and women and start to get on the same page? I'll start with you, Yolanda.
I really don't have anything to add.
Okay.
I really don't.
I mean, but is discourse a good thing? Like amongst the sexes, like just having a good conversation amongst people. Like, at the end of the day, is it positive to have these conversations?
I think if you're a strong enough woman to approach a quote unquote toxic masculine man, that's great. But I think in the definition of a toxic person is that oftentimes they're not going to see somebody else's point of view. I feel like I've dealt with this buzzword before in my life, and approaching people about what I deem as disrespectful or toxic. They don't necessarily get it.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure where you go with people who are from that sect of society.
Right.
It's more about educating other people, uplifting the men that are positive figures as far as not being toxic, for lack of better words.
And one thing I think, one thing I think that can happen, because we gotta get ready to wrap up, so I want to give them an opportunity, all three, to talk about what they got going on. One thing I think that can happen is with articles like Drea, and again, I encourage you to go read her article. With conversations, with music that I'm sure that like even Devon can implement and whatever, just messages. It encourages men to have conversations amongst men. Like I said on my page, there's this whole conversation about toxic men. A lot of dudes don't agree with it, but at the end of the day, what's happening is there's discourse and there's men checking men. Right. And then, the toxic people, the people that are like crazy and toxic, you can't do much about them, but the people that can be swayed and didn't realize they were doing something wrong or you can help women say, look, here's what Kendrick was trying to say. And they go, oh, okay. So like this discourse and this conversation has happened. It causes more conversation and more conversation. And I think at the end of the day, that could be a positive thing. I want to thank our guests real quickly for coming in and having this conversation. But before we let all three of you go, I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk about, because you all are doing big things, man, and we're very honored. Can we clap it up for our guests?
Yes, indeed.
We're honored to have you guys on here, man. You guys are very dope. I'm Devon. I'll start with you, man. Just tell us about some of your music and what you got coming up in the future, bro?
Yeah, right now, I finished up my second album. It's coming out in May. Right now, my first album, The Resistance, is still, people are finding it, loving it. It's 2 years old, 3 years old, and you know, it's me bringing it back to just hip hop.
Beautiful.
Hip hop and not, you know, even the conversation we had today, like I'm talking about love and different kind of things on, you know, and with my new album, it's my best work ever.
Beautiful.
You know, artists say that all the time, but literally, like, I'm so excited to be able to be in that conversation, and I think this one's really going to change a lot of things for me as an artist.
Dope, man. Dope. Happy to have you. All right, young lady, tell us about your page and what you got going on and all your billions of followers. Doing great things.
It's Yolanda Renee again, and I currently am on tour with Palmer's.
Nice.
You guys use Palmer's?
Awesome.
Are y'all moisturized?
A team of moisturizers.
So I'm very proud of that, being able to go around the world and promote the message that Kendrick was trying to do, is embracing natural beauty, natural hair. So I'll be in the UK in May, my first time. I'm so excited with Palmer's. I'll be in Atlanta next weekend at the World Natural Hair Show. So if you're in Atlanta, come see me. Yeah. And just check me out on YouTube. I have so many videos on there if you can't see me in person.
Nice. Beautiful. That's dope, man.
That's awesome.
Okay, I love it.
That's
I love it. Miss Michelle, Sasha, what you got going on? Tell us about this book.
Oh, well, it was more of a therapeutic process, self-published. So I learned a lot about myself.
Dope.
And I guess a lot about publishing books. It's a poetry book mostly, so you can find that on Amazon. It's called Hip Hopped.
Nice.
As well as I have my own personal lifestyle and music blog, michellesasha.com.
Dope.
And I'm a contributor for DC Weekly.
Nice. Shout out to Anwar, man.
Yeah.
What it do?
And I promised I would shout out Bumbleclot to my little group chat. So.
Oh, cool. Nice, yo. Again, man, thank you so much. You all were great guests. Appreciate y'all for having this good conversation.
Thank you.
Hope to have you all back on at some point to talk about all sorts of stuff. You guys are really dope. All right, man.
What's up?
Back at it next week, huh?
We are.
We got another tough conversation coming up.
Live in full effect.
Live in full effect, man. Oh, yeah, by the way.
Chris.
Yeah, and also Chris will be here, by the way. Hi, Chris. The Palmer's, by the way, brother. Hey. Palmer's. Hey, Palmer's, bro. She should have brought some Palmer's for that man. My man, hook my man up with the Palmer's. And on that note, until next week, ladies and gentlemen.
My man said, what kind?
Oh, no. Anyway, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, be great.
Elevate us.
We up out of here.